Hey, YouTube. Thanks for hanging with us. If you're with us live on YouTube, like this video, subscribe because there's a whole world happening in our A3 chat. Christine Cupo, you know about this chat? You're in
I,
there.
I yeah, I'm in there. I'm ready for the chat. Let's go.
She's like, I'm in, I'm ready. So subscribe, then you get to join the chat. There's combos, there's questions, everything. We read it too. You make us laugh. So, hey, thanks guys for that. Before we get into it though, huge reminder, attacking third. We are so proud to be finalists in not one, but two categories of the Sports Podcast Awards this year. So it is Best Football Podcast and Diverse Voices Award. So the winners are determined entirely by fan voting. Heads up, that's you guys. So thank you for listening and for watching and for always tuning in. Do one more thing for us. Vote for us for Sports Podcast Award. There's a link in this YouTube description. There's going to be a link in the chat. There's a QR code when we go to break. All the things. Vote, vote, vote. We so appreciate you. Now, all that business out of the way. Let's get going. Happy Thursday, everyone. What is up? Welcome into Attacking Third for I don't know, probably the best show that we're going to do because I got Christine Cupo and I'm Lisa Carlin. Christine, good morning. It is so good to see you.
Good morning. I love your face. I love the chat. And they're already popping off with the good mornings. I need them to just be my alarm in the morning. So then I'm like, oh, yawn, stretch, because I'm gonna keep it a buck with all of you. I'm not a morning person. It takes a few hours to arrive at this disposition, but I love y'all. So thank you for
Well,
everybody waking up and joining us.
your eye also looks great today. I don't know if it's healing or your makeup
It's
contour is getting really good, but I'm glad you're still looking and feeling
Why
your
not
best.
both? Hey, Makeup by Mario, if you want to sponsor us, you're killing it this morning with my under eye
Are
here.
killing it. Can't see the black and blue at all. But we have a lot to talk about, Christine, because there's a futures camp roster that drops. So we're talking young guns playing in the women's game. Racing Louisville, we're diving into this team. Sandra and I, we did a really special interview with the newest San Diego Wave head coach, Jonas Eidevall. So we're going to drop some teasers of that interview. Plus, we got a framework for 2025 NWSL season, and we're going to break all of it down. There's so much for us
When
to
you
talk
say it
about.
that way, framework sounds so sexy.
I mean, it's better than what did they call it? A footprint? Yeah, I always try to spice things up here. Give me the bedazzle gun. I'm gonna make things shine. Before we get into anything women's soccer related, there's something far greater than football and sport that is happening right now. And we want to acknowledge it, the destruction, the devastation that is taking place in Los Angeles right now. Our hearts at Attacking Third at CBS Sports are with everyone, absolutely everyone affected by this horrific event and these wildfires, all the lives, all of the homes, the businesses, the animals, everyone navigating this unimaginable loss. We are so grateful for the first responders, the firefighters, the local journalists who are putting their lives on the line to help those in need fight the fires and spread awareness. So we are sending strength and love to everyone affected in California in light of these wildfires that are taking place.
Yeah, I would just add to that. I do have a number of friends out in LA, some that have evacuated, some that are still lingering, waiting for orders. Thoughts are with all of you, but sending all of the love and strength in the world to the firefighters who are out there going well above and beyond. They are trying to help people move their absolute keepsakes out of their homes in the middle of what is a hurricane of flames. Um, if you haven't checked and you haven't been able to check on your people, be sure that they have resources. They know where to go to. I know Planet Fitness in the area in LA are offering showers and shelter, Wi-Fi, and plugs to people that are afflicted. Everyone is trying to do their best. So be sure to check in on everyone and also know that there are shelters and others. Thinking of the wildlife too. It's heartbreaking. I've never seen this level of destruction in LA. And I know that everybody wants to, oh, they get Wildfires. This is something else. So sending
Very
love to all of you from all of us.
exactly. And that is top of our mind, but we hope for the next hour or so we can make you guys laugh, update you on women's soccer, and take your mind off of some of it before you dive right back into thinking of everyone in LA. Christine, we're going to start international news, U.S. women's national team, because this January is chock full of players getting together to compete. Before we talk about the U.S. youth national team and the Futures Camp, there has been an update to the senior women's national team roster. Forward Lynn Williams has been ruled out of the January camp due to hamstring soreness. This is an injury that she has been battling for what feels like months and months and months. Lynn Williams, is going to be replaced by midfielder Hannah Bebar. Hannah Bebar is out of Duke, but she did spend her first 3 years collegiately in the Ivy League with Harvard, and then she played her 4th season in Durham. She was named an All-American twice at Harvard, and then again her senior year at Duke. So to do that at 2 different schools, 2 different conferences is pretty impressive. Hannah Bebar has also represented the U.S. at almost every single level of youth national team, but this is her first senior national team call up. We don't get to see her. There are no friendlies, but we sent good vibes to players. I'm going to send some good vibes to Bebar because that's pretty terrifying to go into a senior national team camp being called up
Yeah,
late.
that's a good way to label it. Terrifying. I mean, what a massive opportunity. But yeah, I'd be shaking in my boots. Low
Yeah,
key, I'd be sweating on the inside. I'd be like, oh, this is fine. I act like I've been here before, and then just like absolutely petrified.
well, not only are you shaking in your boots, but I imagine that there are 24 players that have been called up to the 2025 Futures Camp that is also a little nervous to play in front of Emma Hayes. This is the first time U.S. Soccer is putting on a Futures Camp, which is going to run concurrently with the U.S. Women's National Team training camp. And Emma Hayes, the head coach for the senior national team, talked about how when the senior national team is on a break or they have an off session, she's going to go over and coach this Futures Camp, get a good look at them. It is truly an even playing field across the board. But of these 24 players, 14 of them are already professional, 10 still play in college. But when you look at the whole group of 24, 17 of them have experienced FIFA Youth Women's World Cup. So they have a lot of international experience. And this is all Emma Hayes' work to get more eyes and more camps for these young players. All right, should I run through the list, Christine, just a little bit, give the people some names?
Yes, give the people some names and color. Give them the razzle dazzle, Lisa.
We got to give these players some love too. Goalkeepers, 3 of them called in: Jordan Brown, Mia Justice, and Niku Purcell. Defenders, 7 of them: Jordan Bug, Heather Gilchurst, Savvy King, Emily Mason, McKenna Morris, Leah Reel, Giselle Thompson. Midfielders, 6: Taylor Huff, Claire Hutton, Riley Jackson, Ainsley McMahon, Yuka McCormick, and Lexi Misimo. Forwards, Michelle Cooper, Maddie Deline, Jordan Dudley, Kate Fossey, Jamise Joseph, Avery Patterson, Pietra Torden, and Raylan Turner. Pretty exciting to see some names we know in the NWSL, some young college players. Who are you excited to
Who
see
am I
get this call up?
excited to see? You know what? I love that this is like the advent of what women's soccer is becoming because now the draft is gone. So I'm not someone who is in the weeds for women's college soccer. Unfortunately, my brain can only take on so much. But I am interested to see Mason Rutgers, are you rah rah, let's go, Jersey, show up. I love when you get a local college here. I'm going to let my jersey show just a little bit. But of the players in NWSL that I'm interested to see, only because of the season that they had last year, I feel like with a cooperative of better players that are gelling together and maybe a little bit of a spotlight, I want to see what Jamise Joseph can actually do.
Ooh.
You can see she's got quality, but I just don't think that we've gotten to see her capacity just because the Red Stars are stars, as we will call them forward. Sorry, I'm going to screw that up many times. It's going to be like me writing 2024 for the next 3 months, but I digress. Yeah, I'd like to see what Jamise Joseph looks like in that capacity. And also, I don't think it's any surprise I'm going to say this, but like Claire Hutton, like
Yeah.
deserved. I want to see how that shakes out because I quite frankly think that of the newbies, I'll call them, I think she's got the most promise. Most promise, excuse me.
I love that shout. Jamise Joseph, they put when the roster is announced, they put in parentheses the club team or college of these players, and it said Chicago Stars, and I did have to do a double take. I was like, what's happening here? Good shouts all around. I watched the college game. I actually haven't called any games this year, but in the last several years of my
Do me a
life,
favor, you call more games. I'll tune in to watch you. I will
then
absorb
you'll
by
learn about the
osmosis
college
more college
players.
ball.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you'll learn about the college players. You gave a shout out to Rutgers. I'm giving a shout out to Princeton because that's a little more Philly. Pietra Torden, a forward. She's got really good flair on the ball. She keeps the ball close to her. She's a playmaker. She dictates. She plays a lot as a withheld nine collegiately, dropping a little bit deeper in the midfield, but she is hungry to be on the ball. I'm excited to see what she can do. She played at Youth World Cup this past summer. So she's called into this group with the forwards. I'm also really excited for McKenna Morris. She's listed as a defender on this
Mhm.
Futures Camp roster. We saw her play this past season with Washington Spirit, playing more in the midfield and being a bit of a bruiser, right? If you can tussle around with the likes of Savannah McCaskill going up against Marta in the midfield, other big name players, you're going to be fine at this Futures Camp with the other U.S. internationals if they do like a little bit of a crossover between the senior national team. So I'm excited for Morris to get time to prove herself, to grow in her game, to establish herself as a player that can be really versatile for the US, because that's frankly what this is all about, right? Having that development, creating the pathways for younger players to actually find themselves playing professionally, playing at the international level. And it's not just like, wow, you get your first senior national team call up when you're 25. US Soccer and Emma Hayes want these younger players to have experience at these camps and have more time playing together as a group. There are a couple players who did play at the 2022 FIFA U20 Women's World Cup in Costa Rica this past season. That is goalkeeper Mia Justice, Niku Purcell, defenders Emily Mason and Lily Reel, and then forward Michelle Cooper who plays for Kansas City Current in the NWSL. She captained that team. So a lot of familiar names, but who's missing, Christine? Who are you like, man, they deserve to call up in this?
I'm trying to think because I feel like with this sudden influx of all these new like first timers that are coming in for Futures Camp, you lose sight of like, oh, the senior players and we are moving younger. I think a lot of the names that I would throw out like have been in the camp before, have been featured, but have been working through injury. Like a Midge. I don't know that she's ready to get thrown back into the mix yet, but trying to think if there's anybody that um who would
I got
be? I
one for you,
mean,
Christine. I got one for
are you
you.
are you gonna say Sans?
I'm not. That's not a bad
Okay,
one though.
good.
I'm looking out west. I'm going to San Diego Wave. Melanie Barcenas. She is a young player that has
That's a
youth
good one.
national team experience, has played now 2 years in the NWSL, and has really established herself as someone that is a sponge, wants to learn, wants to grow. She took a lot of strides in this past year to be a little bit more influential on the pitch. She's got a tough role playing in the midfield, but my word, Barcenas and her footwork are incredible. I
Yeah.
mean, she could tussle with the best of them in terms of her footwork, how close she keeps the ball, her ball control, her touch is like butter. She also has developed in the last year of just watching her vision on the ball and her vision of playing. She is thinking 3, 4, 5 steps ahead, whereas a year and a half ago, it was like you could see she was almost a step behind because she was always only thinking one step ahead. So Mel Barcenas is for me someone that needed to be on this list. It's
Yeah,
a
that's a
player.
really good one, to be fair. I do like that a lot of these younger players, including those in NWSL, are getting illuminated now. And I do like how immediate we're seeing it with Emma Hayes and her noting that like all of this sudden and immediate action was the direct result of the recent international friendlies and some of the challenges that were there, and her preparing for the future, literally saying, hey, we need to have a better idea of what talent we actually do have, where we can plug and play heading into the next World Cup. And like, I love that there wasn't a hesitation there. There was, this needs to happen now. I don't care. Under 23s, call them in. Let's get some more faces in that we haven't seen previously. There isn't this necessity to placate fans and say, okay, here's the usual senior roster. We're just going to repeatedly bring them back in. Yes, it's great for cultivating more chemistry, but I think that her hitting that right in the bullseye with, like, you know, think about how long some of these other players, our contemporaries internationally, have been playing together from academy level and how they've been integrated to their national teams the same way. And that's why they're so efficient. So it's like, hey, get them in earlier. Let's get our eyes on them earlier. And yeah, especially in the absence of a draft, more to the public too.
Mm-hmm. As early as 17, midfielder Ainsley McMahon, she's the youngest on this roster. She's born, Christine, I don't want to make us sick, but she was born in 2007. She's already played in the Women's World Cup this past summer in the Dominican Republic. So she's on this list, but every single player called into this futures camp is eligible to play for the USA under 23. But so that, I think, is really important, because before you know it, they're eligible and they are finding their way onto the senior national team. So it's a huge camp for all these young players. Congratulations, Emma Hayes, the senior national team coach, as well as the U.S. national team coaching staff and the youth national team head coaches are all going to come together to run these training sessions at the Futures Camp. We are finally seeing that big bucks, Michelle Kang money be put to work in this camp. This is what her investment was about, the youth growing the game and having it all come together. Shouts, snaps to these 24 players. Congratulations. Go crush it. Go crush it. All right, Christine.
Do it for us. Do it for me spiritually.
Do
Now I'm having an existential crisis because you got me stuck on 2007 birth date. I used to be able to say, like, yo, I could have teen mommed you, but like I could have just like traditional mommed you. I'm going to go weep after this show.
Traditional mommed you. Okay, well, we have another player that, despite the age, no matter what happens, she's making an announcement. She is making waves. Stick with us. We got a big news coming up after the break. The news is potentially here. I don't know, but we hear from her, the GOAT, the legend, Brazilian international, Orlando Pride forward, Shield winner, championship winner, Marta. She had words this morning, Christine. Take a listen.
Orlando, what an incredible ride we have had together. From the moment I stepped my foot into the airport 8 years ago, you made this club and this seat my home. Week in and week out, home and away, you have shown up and have made this the best club to play for. It's been the honor of a lifetime to represent this community, to be your captain, and to bring the first ever league championship to the city of Orlando. That's why I want you to hear from me first. I'm staying home!
Oh gosh, you absolutely love it. Marta with the sense of humor. Did you cry, Christine, for the first 20 seconds of that video? Because I did.
Yo, that whole video was the definition of like, why are we crying in the club? Because I went from like, no, don't do this to me today. No, to like eyes welling, stress to samba. Hey, hey, hey.
I
Like,
mean,
why?
give her
Martha,
give her a Golden Globe. That was
queen.
incredible
No,
acting,
give her
Marta.
the EGOT. Just give her all of it. I don't care. Give her all the awards. It just, God damn it, Marta.
Give her another Marta award while we're at it. Congrats. Marta is staying in Orlando. She was a free agent. A lot of conversation about what could happen. She finally won not one, but 2 trophies, the first and second ever trophies for this club after 8 years in Orlando. And it's a subtle flex, her sitting there in the locker room with 2 giant shining Tiffany's trophies behind her, just being like, I've done so much for this club. So she's freaking
She's so
queen.
cool. I can't handle it. Okay. I just,
She's a
she's
freaking
such a
queen.
G. I
As
can't.
Lucy says, Marta trolling everybody with this mess. Yeah, Lucy, you're exactly right. That was the best way to start this conversation because we're diving into NWSL and from a team at the top of the table, Orlando, who just dominated. We are talking team needs, things that teams need in this offseason in order to be better in 2025. And we are taking a deep dive at Racing Louisville. I gave you a hint with my kit today, everyone, but we are talking
such a good kit.
Such a good kit. The Argyle, it's absolutely beautiful, but not quite as beautiful as the play and the finish for Racing Louisville needed to be last year. In 2024, Louisville finished 9th at the end of the season, just 28 points, 7 wins, 7 draws, 12 losses, and their goal differential, -6. It was a bit rough. And Racing Louisville, this is the most heartbreaking stat I can give you, Christine. Racing Louisville missed the playoffs yet again by 1 spot. For the 4th straight year, Racing Louisville finished in 9th place. So every single year of existence, they have been on the outside looking into the playoffs and in 9th place. They had a lot of changes and movements in the 2024 season. In August, they acquired forward Bethany Balser. That came in a trade with Seattle for midfielder Jalen Howe, who went to Seattle. Reminder, now Hal is at Gotham FC. Also in August, they sent defender Carson Pickett to Orlando, and they added forward Janine Becky in a trade with Portland. Now, that was all 2024. So far in this offseason, they have made some updates to their roster. Defender Ellie Pikiamsa has exercised her side. She's staying. She's still rehabbing that torn patellar tendon in her left knee that she suffered in March. Defender Aaron Wright is sticking around. Also forward Uchenna Canoe, who was in Mexico this past season. They picked up her club option. Midfielder Jordan Baggett also sticking around, and Janine Becky, who signed last year. She's got a contract extension. Defenders Angela Barone and Lauren Millay, midfielder Savannah DeMello, and forwards Millie Clegg and Emma Sears are also re-signed. The 2 free agents, Abby Erseg and forward Parker Goins, are free agents, and they are not re-signing with Racing Louisville. So that's just get y'all caught up to speed on Racing Louisville. But when we think about 2024, a 9th place finish, only 7 wins, Christine, where did it all fall apart for Bev Yanez and Louisville?
I would argue it didn't necessarily fall apart. It just didn't come together. They didn't get key pieces that would sort of work functionally the way that Bev wanted them playing until August, when you saw Janine Becky, Balser come in. They always had sort of that left back problem, that left side problem, outside of Abby Erseg and Aaron Wright, who are those veteran anchors. Those are my key concerns going forward. Now, in retrospect, they started the season on a 7-match winless streak, which is not how you want to start out. They obviously were hit with tons of injuries. They had lost Rylan Turner to Portland. Sab DeMello was injured. Emma Sears, like the consistent rotation of injured, unusable, and also just tinkering, and then finally finding and falling into a place where you realize this relationship that was built with Ari Borges and Taylor Flint in that midfield, their capacity to kind of telepathically communicate didn't come until later in the season. And I think we started to see the best of what could be of Louisville way too late. And that was when they were trying to make that playoff push. Oh, hi, Gigi in the background to everyone. But yeah, I mean, we saw Courtney Peterson into the squad to try to fix some of those defensive issues, and that was sort of interchangeable with Ellie Jean. Um, that being said, they conceded the majority of their goals late in games in the inside area, and that didn't change all season long. The majority of their goals scored were header goals, and then outside of that, there really wasn't a whole bunch of productivity. Kayla Fisher stepped up in some instances. I think that what did work was that right flank, that low Malay Aaron Wright connection, and sort of that get up, how she wanted to build from that sort of like back three, top five in attack. She's very good, Bev, I say, is very good at articulating her plan, what she foresees and what she needs out of her players. And I think that we saw some of the hyper utility. And with that, when she signed Janine Becky, thinking that, she can be sort of interchangeable. She has a lot of this sort of Swiss Army knife capacity like Sav DeMello does. And how they could interchangeably play and pick up different roles and processes on this side. So I think that they arrived at a good place, but they didn't start off
Yeah.
well enough that when they got the life rafts, they were already half submerged in the sea.
Bev Yanez did a very, very good job, which in her first year as a head coach and at Racing Louisville, of establishing a style of play, a technique into every single player on her roster, having roles for every role, every position, and having everyone understand the game plan for every single match. And she stuck with it. It was all about learning, educating her players, making sure that they knew the roles. And for some of them, it was almost starting over at ground zero before they could build up again. And that's why we saw such a losing streak at the beginning of the season and such a slide, because she was firm in her path of understanding she wanted to have technique. She wanted to have a style of play for this Louisville side, and she wasn't going to deflect from that no matter what happened. I don't think she had the right personnel until later on in the season.
I agree. I think that that's what killed her in the long run. And she admittedly had said, I have been sort of starting to lean into these nuances of individual players and partnerships, how they play well together, what we can do. Because I think what we saw early on is she wanted to be playing with these wing backs, but she didn't really have any wide players, like true wide players. And so I think that a lot of that was plug and play when you saw how she wanted sort of Marissa DeGrande playing in that 10 role, that sort of dip, but also like Ari and Taylor Flint alternately, one dipping low, then someone pulling wide. Same thing with the way that she got sort of Sav DeMello to play as more of a pocket player. I think that all of the pieces are there and the instructions. I just think there wasn't enough time to steep in it and really move forward. Now, with that being said, I have very, very high expectations based on the squad that she managed to put together toward the end, with the exception of the back line. And again, it's that same side that's just deficient, in my opinion. And that's my primary worry.
Okay, so the players that you're talking about, the squad that she has put together, the roster right now, just looking at the attacking half, midfielders, Jordan Baggett, Ari Borges, Savannah DeMello, Marissa DeGrande, Kayla Fisher, Taylor Flint, Lindo Martalo, and Maddie Picorni. Forwards, Alexa Barr, Bethany Balser, Janine Becky, Millie Clegg, Uchenna Canoe, Emma Sears, and Kristen Wright. You're saying that's solid. They're gonna.
I think that. So what I will say is, obviously, Sav DeMello, Emma Sears, Uche were their primary goal scorers. And I have to, I guess, acknowledge Raylan Turner, who was no longer with them. That was who they were relying on earlier on in the season. And those were still the primary goal scorers. With the add of Balser and Becky, yes, that added some to the tally. But again, not nearly enough firepower. But I think that that was also in connection with an entire swath of injury. So I think healthy, great. Should they have some reinforcements? I think they still have Kayla Fisher going into this season. I think that she's good. She's still a little bit needs to add to her game a little bit, but I think that she is a hard worker and quick learner.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'm going to throw in Alexa Barr in that mix as
Yeah.
well. This is a player that took a lot of time to adjust to the NWSL, to Racing Louisville. And if she can continue to take strides forward, steps in the right direction, time, right? That's the biggest factor for Bev, Louisville, and
Yeah,
a lot
I
of these
think that's
players.
what they didn't have last season, but now you have the personnel in the beginning of the season, presumably. Okay, we'll talk about the blind spots, but you have an attack, I think, and a midfield that on paper should be great. And I think they can get there for sure. Ari Borges is outstanding. I just think that she hasn't had,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, the
She was injured
conditions
a lot.
and
She
yeah,
dealt with a
that's
lot of
what I'm saying.
injuries
Like,
last year.
all of them somehow, maybe they need a shaman, a priest, a rabbi, everyone to come just like pray over them, wave some sage. I don't know. But they did. They were largely hindered by recurring injuries throughout the squad. And again, I'm not making excuses for Louisville or for Bev.
Everyone
That's
deals with injuries, though.
exactly. That is unfortunate in NWSL. You're all going to deal with that. You're all going to deal with international breaks. You're going to deal to some extent, depending upon your squad distribution, depletion of key personnel. It's managing through that, right? So
Christine,
that's where I'm at there.
you've hinted and you've pointed at it a lot. The big holes at Louisville in the back defensively.
Yeah.
How do they shore up? Who is there a free agent? Is there someone overseas that Bev Yanez should be looking at? You get to play GM for a day here. Be the GM for Louisville. Who are you bringing
Yeah.
in to solidify it defensively?
But yeah, to prioritize, they need another veteran defender. They really, really do. You can't just say Abby Ersig's gone on a free and not replace that. Her connection, the chemistry that she built with Erin Wright in that back line to sort of create some soundness um, was great. Now you need to reinvigorate that. Also, I think, you kept tinkering. You brought in Courtney Peterson. You also brought in Angela Baron, who is young. She's a 21-year-old, plays for the Colombian national team. I don't think that she's sufficient for a fix for that left back row. It just isn't. The left center back, on the other hand, I think you actually threw out a name, Lisa, earlier. I will not take credit for it, but I will let you speak to her because it wasn't my name. It wasn't my pick, but I do want to see maybe pick up a Tatum Milazzo.
Yeah.
I think that she's got a lot of what they need. Bev is not going to be playing just on a purely defensive OG backline where you're stagnant, just blocking and tucking and intercepting balls. She wants them engaged in the attack. I think that Tatum Milazzo can bring a lot of that and contribute both defensively and in attacking respect. So for me, that's my one spot where I know available free agent. Go after her and see what you can make of that, Bev, please, I beg.
There are a number of veteran, if you will, free agents still available right now. And this is kind of late, right? January 9th, like we're a little bit late in the signing period. But if you've announced that you're not staying at a club, you're in talks, you're going somewhere else. Some of those players include out of Portland, Kelly Hubley, Megan Klingenberg. These are two players that I could add a lot of experience and a lot of
I
leadership.
like that Klingenberg shout. You think you could sway her over to Louisville?
That's honestly, that's the hardest part. No one wants to go to Louisville. I mean, no disrespect. I love you, Louisville. You've got a great stadium. You've got a good facility. I think Bev Yanez is putting the club in a really good spot, but it's tough. Like when your choices could be San Diego or like racing Louisville, it's tough.
Or like a larger soccer market. Yeah, like
Exactly.
especially if you're coming from like a Portland, which is
Yeah.
literally one of
The
the
Mecca.
OG soccer
The
cities.
Mecca.
Yeah.
There's E-Ball, Elizabeth Ball out of Kansas City. Jasmine Spencer, that is a veteran. She's been in the league the whole time. She's a free agent as well. I mean, there's a lot of them out there defensively. I'm not so worried about Louisville defensively. They got Katie Lund. She's like, hit me with fire
So
all
you're
day.
saying like let Katie not be having tea parties back there by herself? She wants to
like,
be busy a little bit?
I mean, no, I'm sure she would like a little bit more pressure in front of her from the defenders, but there are a lot of attacking free agents, Christine, that I think would thrive under Bev Yanez. Kristen Hamilton.
Kristen Hamilton, I could see. Like, and again,
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to depth, but I think in terms of prioritization, there's always going to be a weak side, right? I don't need it to be this week. They need to fix that.
They need to fix it. I get it. They have a lot of midfielders, but a free agent midfielder Quinn is available, and they provide a lot of depth in the midfield, a lot of experience. They do a good job there. Louisville doesn't necessarily need Quinn, but I'm just saying there's a lot of good free agents. Is this the year, Christine, now that we've fixed everything, we've patched all the holes at Louisville, is this the year that they finally make the playoffs?
Yes, it's do or die. I mean,
Or die?
Bev is too good at motivating players, including me objectively. Okay. Like I was on a disproportionate somehow number of Louisville games this last season on the desk doing analysis where I went in point uno neutral, where all of a sudden I'm like, all right, Bev, give me the pep talk. Like she's a very good, passionate, engaged,
Mhm.
insightful coach. And so I would like to see this pay off dividends finally. I think that it's okay to have a slow build and tinker and do what you can. But like this season for Bev, as far as I'm concerned, this is now your proving ground.
Or die.
You
Yeah.
have to make playoffs
Do
this
or
year.
die.
You need to prove that all of this work was not lost, um, that there were learnings that you had used and then implemented to make changes going forward. And I think we saw a little bit of that the latter part of this season.
The poll on YouTube agrees with you, Christine. Is this the year Racing Louisville finally make the playoffs? 54% say yes, 45% say no. They're with you, though, saying yes. We started this segment with a bit of breaking news with Marta, the Brazilian international Orlando Pride forward, announcing that she is staying in Orlando. But we get more details on it to close out this segment, Christine. Not one, but 2-year contract extension with NWSL side Orlando Pride. 2 years. That's
What did I say? What did I say? What?
I didn't. I thought it was going to be one. I'm putting myself on blast, but
Yeah, you know what? Like reach for the stars, baby.
what did
I said
Darian said?
too.
4 years? I think Darian said 4 years. Sandra said 3
Yeah.
maybe.
I
Um,
mean, listen, if she gets that 2-year extension after the 2 years, then like I will eat my hat, Darian. I love you. But
I mean,
like
Orlando would be silly to do anything other than re-sign her, but not 1, but 2 years. Orlando fans are just jumping for joy right now, as are we. Congratulations, Marta. You're staying in Orlando 2 more years. Don't go anywhere, guys. We've got sneak peeks of special interview that we did earlier in the week. Hey, welcome back to Attacking Third. Earlier this week, big coaching news was announced out of San Diego Wave. They have named their new head coach, Jonas Eidevall. He was formerly with Arsenal. He left after just 7 matches, saying that was his own personal decision to do so. And now he's coming to the West Coast to coach in the NWSL. Sandra Herrera and I had the distinct honor of speaking with him about this. Now, Christine, you are a resident Gunners fan here. You are always chatting Arsenal, so I'm really excited to get your take on this. But there is a full interview with Jonas Eidevall. It's up on our YouTube page. Go watch it. The link is in our chat. It's a great talk. Full disclosure, he was in Sweden during this interview. It was about midnight, maybe like 12:30 in the morning. So God bless him for doing that and staying up with us. But let's take a listen to it. What took him to San Diego? Take a listen. How'd you land here? What drove you to this head coaching role with the Wave?
I think in general, looking at the league and WSL, I really like the competitiveness of the league, how small the margins is, even between like the sort of the top of the league and the bottom of the league. And I think that's quite unique in women's soccer, if I would compare that to the European leagues. And that really motivates me, where all details, all margins matter to get the results. And I think the more specific side about San Diego, with new ownership, new management coming in, having such an ambitious vision of what they want to create with the club, I felt very aligned to that vision, and that also motivated me a lot. So I think all those factors played a big part in my decision to to choose San Diego.
Christine, what do you think?
You know, I had said ahead of this appointment, as everything was rumored who could possibly take over the San Diego Wave, that I didn't know that Jonas would be a great fit just because of one, how athletic NWSL is, and it's largely transitional play, not necessarily his known style and preferred style of play. So this should be interesting. But it's not Landon Donovan, and it's not another random wild card pick. It's not an interim. So I think it's interesting. I think it's bold of him to make this jump, knowing that, you know, his contemporary was relieved of her duty. And making the leap. It's I don't know. I think I'd have a little bit of trepidation signing for the Wave given the state of unrest, but I'm rooting for Jonas. Obviously, I think he's great. He did Arsenal well until he kind of lost buy-in from the players. But this should be a very interesting NWSL season. I can't wait to see what he manages to put together for this squad.
It's interesting because San Diego, in their inaugural season as an expansion team, they also hired a coach that was formerly in the Women's Super League in England. Casey Stoney, she coached at Manchester United, and we get that again. Now it's different ownership at San Diego. It's a different GM, different front office people in charge, but it's interesting that they're still kind of going that route. You touched on a lot right there in that response to Jonas Eidevall's answer. There's a lot of unrest happening at San Diego right now. He did touch on it, but also the club. What's going to happen? We asked him a lot of questions, so go watch the full thing on YouTube. But
I so will. I'm going to watch with everybody else in the chat.
Exactly, but we're going to give you more because we also asked him about the club, specifically what the heck he's going to do once he gets in charge. When you think about the year and the season ahead with the Wave, what's top of the to-do list to get this team prepared for the season ahead? What is it for you personally that you're like, these are the top few things that I want to do when I get to the club?
I think to start off with, and it's a period that we are in here now, is to build connections. And it's for me to connect with the players. It's for the players to connect with themselves and with other staff. And I think if we build strong connections in this period here now, that can allow us to keep really high standards and that we can challenge both ourselves and each other on the pitch when we start working together, which I think is crucial in order to go into the next stage. And that means to be competing in training, but also competing against your opponent in every single second that you play on the game. So that's sort of from a environmental perspective where we're at, that we need to go here now to connect in order to challenge and then to compete. Playing style-wise, I think it's really important with a team that went through quite a lot of change last season, to find consistency, to find what we need to be really good at, what are going to be our super strengths, that we can put in place in any time against any opponent, and making sure that we get repetition and grow mastery in those areas of the game. And that's going to be really important for me and the coaching staff together with the players to identify those. And then we need to start working with them early on in preseason.
Sounds like he's got a plan.
I mean, if the plan is let me not do what my predecessors did, because I think that we unanimously agree, and I don't remember who put it quite so eloquently, if it was you or Darian at one point, that said, you know, one of the chief problems at San Diego Wave is that coaches, both Casey Stoney and Landon Donovan at one point, were just asking too many questions and just giving far too much of an ask to the attack than they were capable of doing or communicating among each other. So you were just creating this semi-controlled chaos. There wasn't, you know, I mean, huge distinction between a Casey Stoney Wave and a Landon Donovan Wave. Landon Donovan Wave was like high risk, high reward, throw everybody up. Who knows? Let's see what happens. I don't recommend that to anyone. So I think that the bar is fairly low if Jonas is measuring himself against that in terms of defining and creating a cohesive team that's able to have some, verticality and able to pass amongst themselves. I think there are bits of brilliance. They have good players, right? I just think it's give them a task and tell them what you need. Don't give them 43 jobs and then say, just get it done. And then also maybe just hoof it from the back and see what happens. Like they're too good. You have Naomi Gurma in that back line. There's no team that should look as disjointed and unrest and confused is what I'll say.
He's got a lot to do. He's also learned a lot from his experiences coaching in Sweden, coaching in the Champions League with Arsenal and the Women's Super League. And we asked him about that. Also, how that is going to be different this year in the NWSL and with San Diego.
What type of culture can players expect and under your leadership?
I want to do things together. I'm a big believer of the saying to say if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And if it doesn't become our ideas, we're not going to live and breathe them every day. If it's only my ideas or a few of us that believe in that, us as a group will never go far together. So I don't view this journey as something that where only I decide or where only I lead. Leadership for me is to include the whole group and to make sure that we are committed, we're present, and we're doing the journey together. So the environment a player can expect, it's going to be one where you are expected to be active, you're expected to participate, but you can also be expected that your voice will be listened to, and your opinion will be always considered and valued, and it's going to be together that we're going to do things and not one by one.
Maybe the first thing he'll do is put a quote up in the locker room, a quote board.
Just a belief sign from Ted Lasso and call it a day. You know what? I appreciate these interviews and these pressers when coaches are appointed, because obviously everything is very flowery and still very vague. It's like, oh, I'm going to come in and we're going to sing Kumbaya and hold hands. And
he's not even there yet. He's not even there yet.
Hasn't even boarded his flight. Let's hope they don't cancel his ticket. Okay. There's always a chance. But I digress. I think that it's going to be a big ask. Obviously, the criticisms of Casey Stoney were like, oh, she's largely defensive as a manager, and she managed to accomplish a lot at this club.
Right.
I leave the door open for some optimism for Jonas. There needs to be direction, and there needs to be trust, and there needs to be buy-in from this squad.
I'll give you the optimism, Christine. He left a club that the players had turned on him. The locker room wasn't bought into him, and he left feeling that hostility. He doesn't want to get back there. So he's going to do what he can to make sure the players are happy. And what makes players happy is winning. They don't really care about a lot else when things are going well. I'm going to leave it at that. That's your optimism for the day. You may call me Lisa Glass Half Full Carlin today. I'm usually pretty positive, but I'm trying a lot here.
I'm like, wow, that's different from any other day. How? I'm usually like let's keep it real. Okay.
I'm trying a lot here.
I'll take your glass of half full water. I'll take it.
We'll take it. We'll see what happens with San Diego, because we know when they're starting. We know the first time we can see them play. We got a schedule footprint. We're talking about it next. Don't go anywhere. The 2025 NWSL schedule framework is here. Get out your calendars and mark it, people. March 7th, the NWSL Challenge Cup returns. It's usually, well, last year, Shield winner versus the champion. But in 2024, both of those teams were the Orlando Pride. So instead, it's going to be a rematch of the 2024 championship, Orlando Pride against Washington Spirit. That's March 7th. The following weekend is the start of the regular season. Friday, March 14th. It is opening weekend. It's similar setup to last year because we're in the second year of this 4-year broadcast deal. So Friday nights on Prime Video, Saturday doubleheader on Ion, and then CBS, Paramount Plus, Golazo Network will air a package of games as well as ESPN. They're also going to air some matches. There's 2 breaks in the summer, one of them in June, another one in July for international tournaments. That's Women's Euros. We also have Copa America happening during July as well. The regular season concludes on Halloween. October 31st to November 2nd is the final weekend, and then playoffs start November 7th and 9th, quarters, 14th and the 16th semis, and November 22nd is the NWSL Championship, and you can watch it on CBS. Christine, if that doesn't get you jazzed up for 2025, I don't know what will. You ready? You ready? We can't hear you. That's how ready you are. You blew out the speakers.
Sorry, there was a pipe clanking in my apartment and I wanted to spare you all the full New York City apartment experience. I am so hyped. Which is crazy because I felt like this season went so fast and also was just like so all encompassing that by the time we got to the final, I was like, sheesh, I need a rest. And now I'm already like, yo, you got any more of that NWSL? Like we kick the season off. What are we doing? Yeah, I'm ready. I'm super ready. 2 months away. Challenge Cup. Let's see who ends up coming out hammering. I'm excited.
Yeah, I almost wish we could get like an Orlando Pride All-Star against like Orlando Pride All-Star and just see them go against each other, but we don't get that. We don't get that. We get a rematch.
Can we not? Can we just send? What if we called Orlando up and we're like, "Hey, APR and comms. What do you guys think?
Can we clone Marta? Get her on both sides. That's what I want to see. It all starts
we can get her to play on both sides, but we need to like switch. Like one side gets her for like 15 minutes, the other side gets her for 15 minutes.
That's dangerous. That's dangerous. I love it. I love it. March 7th, it all starts. The Challenge Cup. It'll be Orlando against Washington, and then Friday, March 14th, kicks off opening weekend. Until then, if you guys are bored looking for things to do, specifically on your phone or your laptop, you can vote for Attacking Third. We are finalists in the Sports Podcast Award for Best Football Podcast. Scan the QR code on your screen right now. There's a link in the podcast description. There's a link on YouTube. Go vote for us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We can't do it without you. Guys, have a fantastic weekend. We'll see you back here Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern time on YouTube. For Mark and Christine, I'm Lisa. This was Attacking Third.